have you authorized the uniformed military to detain or arrest protesters in Los Angeles?
Senator, I would just start by saying you're not a protester if you're throwing concrete
100%.
at law
Arrest those
enforcement
people.
officers.
Throw them in the jail. 100%. But what you're doing is something different. Everyone knows this is a political decision, right? So we don't trust that you're using the best interests of the military, certainly, and of democracy on top of that. So have you given the order? That's all I want to know. It's not theoretical. For the U.S. military, not law enforcement. They can arrest all day long. That's their job. Do they have the ability, the uniformed military, to arrest and detain protesters currently today? It's a yes or no thing. Authority.
It's sort of amusing the extent to which the speculation is out there. These troops are given very clear orders.
Then what is the order? Then list it out for us. Be a man, list it out. Did you authorize them to detain or arrest? That is a fundamental issue of democracy. I'm not trying to be a snot here. I'm just trying to get the actual, did you authorize them to do that?
All of these orders and what they're sent there to do are public. They are there
so say it. So say it. Yes or no?
Senator Elissa Slotkin methodically presses Pete Hegseth on questions that go beyond politics. They probe the very structure of how the United States ensures that its military remains subordinate to civilian control and aligned with the Constitution.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Secretary, I said in your hearing, when you had your confirmation hearing, that my biggest concern with you at the helm was the potential use of the military in ways that contradict the Constitution or that taint what I hope we all want, which is an apolitical military. And when I asked you about whether you would accept an order that was actually given to your predecessor, Secretary Esper, Trump's SecDef, to deploy active duty troops against unarmed protesters and to, in Secretary Esper's words, shoot at them, shoot at their legs, you said this was all theoretical. Here we are, a few months later, you've deployed 4,700 troops to Los Angeles and against the wishes of the governor. And my colleague across the aisle was right. It is the first time since 1965 that we have deployed Guard troops without the permission of the governor. In all the instances he laid out, the president had sent in the military to protect protesters, not against the protesters. So you may dismiss it, but I feel like this is a fundamental issue of American democracy. If you love your country and you want an apolitical military, then it should be the last resort, not the first resort in our country to use them. So to get to the non-theoretical, have you authorized the uniformed military to detain or arrest protesters in Los Angeles?
Senator, I would just start by saying you're not a protester if you're throwing concrete
100%.
at law
Arrest those
enforcement
people.
officers.
Throw them in the jail. 100%. But what you're doing is something different. Everyone knows this is a political decision, right? So we don't trust that you're using the best interests of the military, certainly, and of democracy on top of that. So have you given the order? That's all I want to know. It's not theoretical. For the U.S. military, not law enforcement. They can arrest all day long. That's their job. Do they have the ability, the uniformed military, to arrest and detain protesters currently today? It's a yes or no thing. Authority.
It's sort of amusing the extent to which the speculation is out there. These troops are given very clear orders.
Then what is the order? Then list it out for us. Be a man. List it out. Did you authorize them to detain or arrest? That is a fundamental issue of democracy. I'm not trying to be a snot here. I'm just trying to get the actual, did you authorize them to do that?
All of these orders and what they're sent there to do are public. They are there
so say it. So say it. Yes or no?
I'd like to.
Please, yes or no?
As I've said time and time again through interruption, they're there to protect law enforcement,
do they have
ICE
the ability to arrest?
who are trying to do their job, deporting illegals who were allowed in by the previous administration.
So they cannot arrest and detain citizens of the United States, the uniformed military.
As we've stated, if necessary, in their own self-defense, they could temporarily detain and hand over to ICE. But there's no arresting going on. And you know this better than you're trying to play political games. There's no arresting of U.S. personnel.
Of the U.S. military against members of the protest. Have you authorized U.S. military cyber tools to investigate people participating in these protests? Yes or no?
Certainly in no way that I'd be aware of.
Okay, that's good. I love that answer. That's great. Have you given the order to be able to shoot at unarmed protesters in any way? I'm just asking the question. Don't laugh. Like the whole country. And by the way, my colleagues across the aisle.
What is that based on? What evidence would you have that an order like that has ever been given?
Giving that order to your predecessor, to a Republican Secretary of Defense, who I give a lot of credit to because he didn't accept the order. He had more guts and balls than you because he said, I'm not going to send in the uniformed military to do something that I know in my gut isn't right. He was asked to shoot at their legs. He wrote that in his book. That's not hearsay. So your poo-pooing of this, it just shows you don't understand who we are as a country, who we are. And all of my colleagues across the aisle, especially the ones that served, should want an apolitical military and not want citizens to be scared of their own military. I love the military. I served alongside my whole life, so I'm worried about you tainting it. Have you given the order? Have you given the order that they can use lethal force against honor? I want the answer to be no. Please tell me it's no. Have you given the order?
Senator, I'd be careful what you read in books and believing it, except for the Bible.
Oh my God. So your former predecessor, I guess that's not enough for you. Okay, on Iran. I don't think there's a debate. There's like a cat fight going on in your own party about whether to go after Iran. Have you commissioned any day after planning? So any force protection, any use of ground troops in Iran, any cost assessments? Because I don't think we doubt what we can do as a country in the attack. It's the day after with Iraq and Afghanistan that so many of us have learned to be so deeply concerned about. Have you authorized day after planning?
As I've said, we have plans for everything, Senator.
Okay.
And I would also reiterate how we began that there will be a classified portion of this 15 minutes after we adjourn.
When Slotkin asks whether Hegseth has given the military the order to detain, arrest, or use lethal force against U.S. citizens, she is not speculating. She is referencing real precedents and historical warnings. In her confirmation hearing, she expressed concern about theoretical misuse of the military, citing orders previously given to Secretary Esper under the Trump administration to act against unarmed protesters. Esper refused those orders, demonstrating how critical it is for military leaders to exercise judgment within legal and constitutional boundaries. By bringing this up, Slotkin highlights the tension between executive authority and constitutional safeguards. Hegseth's responses are revealing. Instead of directly addressing the legality and constitutionality of deploying troops domestically, he pivots to law enforcement analogies, general statements about protecting property, or critiques of reporting. This pattern underscores an essential point. Military authority cannot be conflated with law enforcement authority. The U.S. Constitution deliberately separates these functions to protect citizens from the misuse of force. A Secretary of Defense has enormous influence over military operations, but that influence is bounded by legal frameworks and the principle of an apolitical military. Slotkin is demonstrating that ignoring these boundaries, even in ambiguous circumstances, threatens the stability and credibility of the armed forces. The discussion about the deployment of 4,700 troops to Los Angeles adds another layer. This was not a routine National Guard activation. It was a domestic deployment without the state governor's consent, something unprecedented since 1965. Slotkin emphasizes that the president's intent was to protect citizens, not suppress them. By doing so, she frames the issue in a concrete, real-world context, showing that these questions are not theoretical. They have immediate implications for civil liberties and the relationship between federal and state authority. Slotkin then challenges Hegseth on lethal force, specifically referencing an order proposed to his predecessor, Esper, to shoot at the legs of protesters. Esper refused. This historical anchor is essential for understanding the stakes. Civil-military relations rely on restraint, judgment, and adherence to law. By comparing Hegseth to Esper, Slotkin makes the audience understand that refusing unlawful orders is not just about courage, it's about maintaining the integrity of the military as a constitutional institution capable of defending the nation without undermining its democratic principles. Another critical dimension arises with Hegseth's comments about troop authority. He attempts to reframe questions about arrest and detention as technicalities or political games, and he conflates law enforcement tasks with military duties. Slotkin presses repeatedly, demanding clarity on whether U.S. troops have the authority to detain citizens, investigate protesters using cyber tools, or employ lethal measures. Her insistence on precise answers is a demonstration of oversight in practice. It's a concrete example of how elected representatives safeguard democratic norms by questioning military leadership when actions touch upon citizen rights. She also brings forward broader operational and strategic concerns, including day-after planning for Iran. While it may seem technical, this issue reinforces a larger principle. The military's operational planning, even for hypothetical scenarios, must be transparent, accountable, and legally grounded. Decisions made without clear oversight or that skirt constitutional limits can have long-lasting consequences, both domestically and internationally. Slotkin's approach throughout this exchange is instructive. She combines historical precedent, constitutional principles, and real-world examples to illuminate how civilian control of the military functions as a safeguard of democracy. At no point does she reduce the discussion to partisan rhetoric. Instead, she frames it in terms of legal authority, ethical responsibility, and institutional integrity.
The takeaway is clear. The military is one of the most powerful instruments in a democracy, and its use, especially domestically, requires restraint, transparency, and respect for law. Civilian leaders, military officers, and policymakers must understand that accountability is not optional. It is essential to maintaining trust, preserving constitutional norms, and preventing the misuse of force against citizens. The fundamental lesson here goes beyond the individuals in this hearing. It is about how power is structured, how authority is exercised, and how democratic systems protect citizens from potential abuse, even by those charged with defending the nation. This exchange is a masterclass in demonstrating why checks and balances, constitutional fidelity, and apolitical military leadership matter profoundly. Reflect on this. In a democracy, the legitimacy of military action rests not on orders alone, but on lawfulness, oversight, and ethical judgment. How leaders navigate these principles directly shapes whether the military serves the nation or risks undermining it. If this exploration clarified the stakes, consider engaging further. Discuss how you see the balance between military authority and civilian oversight. Where should the line be drawn for domestic deployment? How do we ensure military leaders respect constitutional limits while still protecting national security? These questions are not abstract. They define the health of democracy itself.